Okay, I am recording another video after a while. I haven't been playing EverQuest much because my daughter was born, so that has eaten up into a lot of my time. So I haven't really been playing much. But I wanted to record a video on my Gina timers. So somebody asked about that. So I'm gonna show how I do this. So the first thing, so somebody asked about how I had a pacify timer. So that's with Gina. So Gina is a legal third-party program, legal on P99 because essentially it's just a log parsing log parsing program. So the main thing that you want to do is install Gina first from this website. So eq.gmasoft.com/Gina, Gina, or I just search for Gina EverQuest usually, and it's the first hit when you search for that. So that you download that. I believe it only works on Windows, so that gives you this piece of software here, and so you need to turn on your log files first. So by default, I think it's to turn off. So you can do this /log on to turn it on in the game. You can also go into your EQ ini file and permanently set logging to be true. And then essentially, so I don't have that open. I should have that open already. Let's see here, desktop, EverQuest, logs. So that's basically inside of your EverQuest directory. There's a directory called logs, and then that's where all of your log files will go. So I'll open up the Arietta, my enchanter's log file. So basically it has all of my stuff, like every command or everything that I've seen since dating back to December last year, saved inside of this file. And so you can see, like, this is when I just did that /log on recently and everything. So every piece of text that pops up on your screen gets written to this log file. So then the idea is Gina is a program that is kind of constantly scanning this file, and it's checking to see for changes in it. So what are the most recent text that has popped up, and then you can set alerts in various forms that will tell you, various things. So you can set timers. Like if you want a respawn timer, you can create a respawn timer. If you want a buff timer, you can create a buff timer. If you want to be alerted when your charm breaks, you can be alerted when your charm breaks, and all these things. So it's a nice, it's very helpful. Okay, so how does this work? So the very first thing you have to do is you have to add your character. So if you're just installed it, you won't have any characters here. So you click add, and then you add your character, and you specify where the log file is. So if I click this add, then so I add the character just by basically picking the log file. So that won't exist if you haven't already turned on your log file. So you have to do that there. And then once you have that, then you can add triggers, and you can actually add kind of these folders to organize your triggers, which is kind of nice because, for example, I have several triggers that are specific to my casters. So for example, like if a spell fizzles, things like that, then that's something that a monk wouldn't have, for example. Yeah, it's not something you'd want to listen for a monk. So you can put them into groups and then activate only the group that you actually want for a particular character. Right? So I have some EC triggers that I don't keep activated on my main characters because they're not my mules, so I don't need Gina to be checking these types of things. So that's pretty nice. So you organize your files here. So this is, or your kind of folders of these triggers. You can organize these here. So you can see here I've got just like a general thing. It alerts me if I'm drowning. That did actually save me once. It alerts me if my invis is dropping, so on and so forth. And so, if I double click this, you can kind of see how this works, how triggers in Gina work. So actually, maybe let me show how I can create like a new one. So this area here is for triggers. So I can click add. This will create a new trigger. So I can call this my test trigger or whatever, and then I can type in whatever text I want it to search for. So I can say begins to cast a spell, right? So that would be one way that we could have a trigger. Then I can have some display text that says someone is casting a spell, and so then that would put a label on my screen that would basically have this text. So let's see here. So if I start casting a spell, see, right, so it doesn't work for me. It will have to be somebody else, and I'm not in a position to see somebody casting, so this is not super well thought out. But if I run over, oh, somebody's camping auditor, so this guy's probably not, this guy's not going to be up. So okay, so all right, there we go. Sarnak Manager begins to cast a spell. So basically, right, so on this trigger, it was searching my log file for begins to cast a spell. And so there, the Sarnak Manager began to cast a spell. It popped up at the bottom of my log file. So Gina recognized that, and then it did the trigger that I told it to do. So in that situation, I told it to display the text. So there's another one. Someone is casting a spell. So the Sarnak Manager is casting a spell again. So every time it sees that, it will do whatever trigger I put there. So for example, another one that is really useful is to use text to speech. So I can have it say something to me. So I can say someone is casting a spell. I can say someone is casting a spell, and then under text to speech, and then now the next time this happens, it's going to say it to me.
Someone is casting a spell.
Okay, there we go. So someone is casting a spell. So so I use that for charm breaks, for example. That's a really useful one. So you put the text for
someone is casting a spell.
The text that pops up.
Someone is casting a spell.
Okay, so that's
someone is casting a spell.
It's getting annoying, so I'm gonna turn that off. But yeah, so you put the text for charm break in there, and then I just have her say charm break, and that is really useful because oftentimes when you get a charm break when you're fighting a summoner, the screen flashes. It's just a kind of a lot visually that's happening all at once, and sometimes it can take a split second to kind of realize what happened. And with an audible charm break, that then you just know instantly, and that can be the difference between life and death in this game for sure. That split second of realizing that was a charm break and he just stunned my pet, rather than, well, I just got aggro when the mob summoned me or something like that, but I didn't get a charm break. Okay, so that's kind of a basic trigger. Now suppose I want a more specific trigger. I want a trigger that's not just going to check to see somebody's casting a spell. So I said begins to cast a spell. That's a general thing that would capture anybody casting a spell. Now suppose I want to know who is casting it. Well, so the simplest way to do that is like if I'm looking specifically for a Sarnak Manager, I can type that in here. I could say a Sarnak Manager begins to cast a spell, and then I can say Sarnak Manager is casting a spell. So this would work. Now when another, so Sarnak Manager is casting a spell, but when another mob starts casting a spell, it's not going to put the text on the screen because now it's specifically looking for a Sarnak manager. So if that's what I'm looking for, that might be good. Yeah, so see there, I tried in Bone Collector begins to cast a spell, and I didn't hit the trigger because it didn't match what the search text was. But now suppose I want to, I want to know who it is, but I want to write it in a general enough way so that like one trigger can capture anybody who's casting a spell. So Gina allows these really nice things where I can use this. So it's left brace. Let me move this out of the way. What in the world? You're not going to let me drag this? Okay, I have to drag it up there. So I can do left brace, S, right brace. And what this is like they call it a string. So it's basically a placeholder that will match any string, any sequence of characters. So if there's any sequence of characters and then later begins to cast a spell, then this will match. And it will save that sequence of characters before begins to cast a spell inside of this kind of variable S. So if you've ever programmed a programming language, you'll be familiar with this sort of notion. But if you're not familiar with that, then it may be a little bit, that may not make a ton of sense. But basically what I can do inside of my label here is I can say S is casting a spell, and now anybody who casts will match, but then I can also put that specifically in my label, and I can also say in my text to speech, I can say S is casting a spell, and now it'll tell me who's casting the spell, and it's generalizable to anything that fits that trigger. So if I save this, now the next time somebody casts, which is now it's going to...
Sarnak manager is casting a spell.
So there we go. Sarnak manager is casting a spell. And then hopefully one of these other guys will cast before too long.
The Sarnak manager is casting a spell.
Okay, whatever. So that'll go off eventually. So that's one really useful thing, to kind of write one trigger that can be generalized to lots of different situations.
The Sarnak manager is casting a spell.
So one of the ways that I like to use this is for my buff timers. So if I go to let me show my clarity to trigger. So this is my C2 trigger. So I've got, okay, so brace C, capital C, starts C2 timer on brace S. Okay, so what this is, so brace C is basically a placeholder for your character's name. So if I'm playing Arietta, it's going to be looking, that brace C brace is going to be looking to match Arietta and nothing else. Okay, there we go. So there we can finally, another mob start casting, and so that matched that trigger too. So okay, good. So brace C brace is looking for your character's name. So that's nice. If I'm playing Arietta, it's going to look for Arietta. If I'm playing Biddy's my shaman, then it's going to be looking for Biddy's. So essentially one trigger can be generalized to lots of different characters by by using this brace C. It automatically shifts it. And then this brace S is, again, this is going to be like some person that I'm casting clarity on. So the idea here is that I can set a clarity timer for every character that I might have cast clarity on. So if I've got 3 people in my group that need C2, and I'm casting it on them individually, I honestly at that point I probably would use the group C2 buff, but if you're casting C2 on some individual people, then this is a way that you can keep a separate timer for each person, which is kind of nice. So I'll talk about timers here in a second. So brace C brace and brace S brace are these kind of placeholders here for more general things. So that's kind of nice. So then what I do for my actual trigger, so if I go to my actual how I set my, so here's my clarity timer. So I use the emote. So I do /em. So it pops up here as an emote. So it'll say Arietta starts C2 timer on %T, whatever I've got targeted. So if I target this bloodhound and I hit this macro, then you can see it does this emote where it says Arietta starts C2 timer on the thing that I've got targeted, and then you can see that the timer shows up in the upper left hand corner. So how do timers work? So you have lots of different tabs down here for your how you the way you want to process a trigger once you detect that is there. So this is with a timer. So basic is just displaying text or playing, saying text to speech or playing a sound file. Playing a sound file, for example, is maybe what you want to do if you're tracking a mob and you detect that the mob is up. Then you might want to have it play a sound file for you. So the timer. So I know Clarity 2 is a 35-minute spell, and so basically what I do is I say timer countdown. You can have it count up from 0 if you want as well. There's also a repeating timer that you can set. Usually for my timers I do countdown. So I do countdown, and you specify what's the starting time, like what's the duration of the spell or the respawn or whatever it is you're trying to time. And then I put the duration there, so hours, minutes, seconds, milliseconds, if you want to get that specific. And then the timer name is going to be the timer name is going to be the text that appears on the timer. So on the left side, you can see here that's the amount of time that has left on the timer. On the right is the text that's going to appear on that. So the way that I do that is I say Clarity 2, and then I just have this arrow to represent I've cast it on brace S. So whatever happened to be match this brace S in the timer, right? And in this situation, I did a Chocodile Bloodhound. That's what's going to show up here. So that's kind of that's nice, because one of the things you can do with the timer is you can set it to restart the timer if the trigger happens again. So for example, if this Clarity 2 starts to get low on this Chocodile Bloodhound and I want to refresh the clarity on this mob, then I would recast my clarity on it, and then I would hit this emote, and then it would see this again, and then it restarts my timer. It doesn't throw up like another timer or something like that. It restarts the timer. But then if so you can specify when you want it to restart. You can restart it regardless of the timer name, or you can restart the timer only if it matches the name exactly. So Clarity 2, Arrow, Achokadi, Bloodhound, right? And so that's nice, because again, if I'm wanting to cast it on multiple people in my group, then so for example, if I cast it on this Sarnak slave driver, it's the same trigger in Gina, right? It's still this Clarity 2 trigger in Gina that set this off, but it knows not to restart the timer because the name didn't match exactly. So I got this a Sarnak slave driver that's different than this, and so you get separate timers in this situation. Of course, if I recast the clarity on this thing again, I restart the timer on this thing again, then it will restart that trigger. But now if I go to the slave master and I run it for that, then I'm going to get yet again another timer for that. So that's nice. So that allows you to keep timers separate for all of the people in your group or whoever you're buffing. Okay, so that's a lot of timers. So timer ending, you can have it notify you when your timer's about to run out. So you can specify notify me when the timer is down to blah. So on my respawn timers, I usually have it remind me. So actually, let me show you my respawn timer. Let's see here. Respawn timers are down here. So I just have like a general respawn timer. So the respawn timer, I have it notify me when the timer is down to 1 minute. So when the timer hits the 1 minute mark, then it tells me respawn in 1 minute. So that kind of alerts me. Okay, it's about time to get ready to pull again. Okay, so now the respawn timer, as you can see here in my search text, has. So let me go back to here. So so this has. Oops. Okay. This has some different formatting that I haven't already described. So let me explain how the respawn timers work. So there's kind of extra these like placeholders here that we haven't seen yet. So the brace C, braced, we've seen. So this is looking for my name. Brace TS, brace, is looking for I forget, so what's TS stand for? Time span. It's looking for a time span. So it's looking for a number in a time format that's specifying a specific timer duration. Because I'll show how I do this here in a second. A timer number, and then this is brace and brace. So brace and brace is looking for a number. It's looking specifically for a number that is entered in. So brace S brace is looking for any sequence of characters. It doesn't matter what it is, but brace N brace is looking for a very specific thing. It's looking for a number. Brace TS is looking for a timer duration. And so let me show you, for example, some of the camps in Chardock here are on 21 minutes time respawn. So this is how I would set this up. So I say EM for emote starts, so 21:00. So this is 20 minutes and 0 seconds. So if it was a 20-minute and 30-second timer, I would say 20:30, right? So that's basically the way that it's looking for this. So there's a way to specify hours if you want it to be that long. I think there's ways to specify milliseconds if you want it to be that long, but most things in EverQuest can be specified in minutes and seconds. So that's really the only way that I've done it. So on the Gina website, it says how to do other time durations if you want something that is either more than an hour, or you want to also specify fractions of a second. Right. So if I'm camping three things that are all on 21-minute timers, then I have this 21-minute timer number 1, and then the second one here is going to be 21-minute timer number 2, and then this one's going to be 21-minute timer number 3. So for example, that's pretty common in Chardock. For example, you might be camping 3 different things that are on 21-minute timers. So I can by specifying the timer number, then I can restart the timer without affecting my other respawn timers. So I'd have one of them for, say, Coruscant Courier, another one for the interrogator, the other one for the inspector, and so then so I can keep a separate timer for each of them. And since they have different names because of the timer number, then they won't interfere with each other. So for example, if I hit this one,
Respawn in 1 minute.
What in the world? Why? What just happened? Okay, I don't know why that didn't set it to 21 minutes. It's like the timer went out right away. Respawn timer. Time duration using dynamic time span for match TS tag. Wow, I don't understand that. I do not understand why.
Respawn in 1 minute.
Yeah, see it flashed up there and it disappeared right away. I have no idea why that's doing that. It's been a long time since I've played, but I shouldn't have messed with anything that should have screwed that up. I don't understand why that's not working. Well, that's okay. Well, it's not showing it properly right now, but that is how you do it. That is a way to do it. So otherwise, it's just if you're going to make a different trigger for every single respawn, you could do it that way as well, but then that's a lot more Gina triggers that you're going to have to make. This is kind of nice. This respawn trigger allows me to make like kind of one respawn trigger that works anywhere. So I have to make a different emote depending on the duration of the timer that I want. But so you can, so I've got pacify timers. I've got, here's 20-minute respawn timers. Here's 18-minute respawn timers. They're just all the same style of trigger emote, but just with the different parameters. So you can just specify a different time and a different number, and then this should work. But I'm guessing this isn't going to work either.
Respawn in 1 minute.
I don't understand why these things are flashing up and disappearing right away. But I mean, I've done this for a long time. I know this works, so or it should work. So I would imagine if somebody tried this, it would work. I mean, there just must be I probably just need to restart my computer or something. Anyway, so that's how I do my timers. That's how I do a lot of my triggers. So there's a bunch of settings you can do with these two inside of. So you can, let's see here. So overlays, you can move where the overlays are. So properties here, right? See, I can place this wherever I want it to be. So I put mine in the upper left hand corner, but you can increase the font size if you want. You can change the background color. You can change the font and all this other stuff. So I've seen some people will group them up based off of, like, they'll have like the buff timers in one area, respawn timers in another area, and have them all be color coded in a different way. I haven't gotten that fancy with it, but I just put all my timers up here in the upper left hand corner. But you can take it pretty far, really, if you want to. So then this other overlay is this is like that, where that text was showing up saying somebody begins to cast a spell, like that, right? So now I can move this around, and you can see. So it's the text is at the bottom of the screen. So if I want that text to be appearing in a different spot, I can move that around here. So and again, you can change the font size. You can do all this other stuff with it and kind of customize how it displays for you. So Gina is super useful. It's not that hard, really. If you haven't programmed before, then I think getting the most out of it might be a little bit of a learning curve, like how to use that brace S brace and brace C brace and brace N brace, those types of placeholders. But otherwise, I mean, it's really not that complicated. And once you get used to it, it can really help you out a lot. So just kind of did this video on the fly, so if I glossed over something, let me know and I'll try to be helpful. Thanks everyone, have a good one.